because of my age, that we survived as a free nation in Europe to assist in the liberation of Europe. We survived in 1940, not least because of the Poles, the Czechs, and the Slovaks that came here and were part of the decisive balance which meant that the Battle of Britain was won by Western democracy and not by continental autocracy. We on these islands owe so much to our friends in Europe, just as much as we have suffered from the follies of our enemies on the continent. I won't this evening divert into contemplation of our present economic troubles, despite being tempted by Barry Legg. But let me just say one thing, Barry. The rules of the game are the same as ever. Monetary incontinence will, like other forms of incontinence, give at moments a feeling of warmth and they will inevitably be followed by feelings of embarrassment and difficulty. Gordon Brown should know this by now. They didn't call them the Wets for nothing. It is 20 years since you, Lady Thatcher, made that famous speech on the future of Britain and of Europe in that great European city of Bruges. By then, as a result of one of the most difficult decisions I have ever had to make, one of choosing between conflicting loyalties, I was no longer a member of your cabinet, but I cheered from the sidelines. What I didn't realise, nor I think did you, at that time, was that your Bruges speech and your famous 3 no's to Monsieur Jacques Delors proposed 3 steps, the hop, skip and the jump, from the European community to the future European Republic, would lead to a coup in which the Euro-fanatic conspirators would topple you from office. And that coup opened the way through Maastricht, Antwerp, Nice and Lisbon towards the United States of Europe. But when I read the Bruges speech, I wonder if today's Euro-fanatics, as they froth away at what they call its xenophobic, anti-European rhetoric, have ever read it at all. They might be surprised to reach the end of the text of that speech without ever having found the words "better off out." They might be even more surprised to find in it the words, "Our destiny is in Europe as part of the community." And you added, "The European community is the practical means by which Europe can ensure the future prosperity and security of its people, in a world in which there are many other powerful nations and groups of nations. And you went on to say that you wanted to set out some guiding principles for the future, which you believed would ensure that Europe would succeed. And it was in the setting out of those principles that you provoked the Euro fanatics to begin plotting to get rid of you. But before I remind us all of those principles which so anger the Euro fanatics, the Euro Republicans, the Federalists, or whatever they like to be called, not to mention their fellow travellers in the Foreign and Colonial Office and the BBC, let me say something of how it could be that Margaret Thatcher and I could use such words in declaring Britain's destiny to be within the European community. European has a capital E. Community has a small c. Alas, since then, the European community has gone. The European Economic Community has come and gone. The European Union has arrived. And if the fanatics have their way, it will soon give way to the Euro state, the Republic, or the United States of Europe. But 20 years ago, when you made that speech, it was possible to believe, and let's be frank, we wanted to believe, that the prospect which now looms over us of a European Republic was just a fanciful dream. In 1988, we both still had hopes that despite what had been achieved in the first two Thatcher administrations, I knew that we were both having doubts and fears at the way in which the European establishment is heading. I recollect saying in 1981, when I negotiated the European Steel Agreement, under which all member states agreed to end the subsidies, the excess capacities and the dumping which were crippling the European steel industry, that if we hadn't had the EEC, we would have had to invent something like it to deal with those problems. Sadly, of course, before long, the invention became the problem. The accession of Spain to the community led to the destruction of the agreement, an increase in subsidies, an increase in excess production, and the decimation of the British industry, which at Framework and Ravenscraig had become not only the best in Europe, but amongst the best in the world. And our fishing industry was going the same way. We should have seen the writing on the wall. We should have seen that the expansion of the European community had become the first priority of the European elite, and that the benefit of the peoples of Europe had become a poor second. Or, I hate to say it, perhaps we did see the writing on the wall, but we still believed it could be